Welcome to the lecture on Chapter 5, Business Software. And in this lecture, we'll go over the difference between application software and system software, enumerate the different generations of programming languages and explain how they differ, cite the major developments in application and system software that are currently occurring, identify and explain the roles of web programming languages. We'll also look at understanding the problem of software piracy and how it affects businesses and consumers. So software is instructions that are sent to the hardware. An application is a computer program that contributes to productivity. Software is a series of instructions to a computer to execute processes. There's two categories of software: application software that enables completion of a task, and system software that enables applications to run on a computer. Also, system software manages components and devices. Programs are needed for every computer operation. Programming is the process of writing programs. A machine language is the only language that the hardware understands. It consists of long strings of zeros and ones, bits. Assembly language is easier to program than machine language, and it uses abbreviated words, or what we might say acronyms, for commands. High-level programming languages use English-like statements. A software development kit is software and tools that help you develop programs. Third-generation languages are known as procedural languages, and the programmer must have a detailed logical procedure that they plan to implement. These languages include C, Visual Basic, Python, and JavaScript. Interesting thing about Python and JavaScript is they're multi-paradigm. So they can be procedural languages, they can be object-oriented languages, and they can be scripting languages. With a procedural language, one third-generational statement is equal to 5 or up to 10 assembly language statements. Fourth-generation languages use more English-like statements. That speeds up the development process. Oftentimes, they're built around database management systems. One fourth-generation language statement might equal several third-generation language statements. And the structured query language SQL used in relational databases is an example. Debugging is the process of locating and fixing program errors. And here we see a stair-step of the different languages, the generations. A machine language in the 1940s, assembly in the 50s, third generation in the 50s, and then fourth generation in the 80s and 90s. And obviously there's a never-ending improvement in computer science, and we expect even more advancements in programming languages in the future. Some of the advantages of a higher level language: it's easier to learn the language, easier to program. You have significantly shorter code, and that makes it easy to debug and easier to maintain. Some of the disadvantages of higher level programming: you have less control over the hardware, less efficient memory use, and the program runs more slowly. Visual programming languages create a graphical screen, and then objects can be selected from icons on a palette and dropped onto that canvas where you're creating your application. Some of the common visual programming languages are Microsoft's Visual Basic, Visual C++, Micro Focus COBOL, Delphi, and Visual RPG. The developer, if they choose, can still work at the code level. Object-oriented programming languages provide a modular approach to programming. Some of the advantages are ease of maintenance and efficiency in application development. An object contains data elements or data members, and also the methods or procedures to manipulate that data element. Data elements can only be accessed through the object's methods. Some of the advantages of object-oriented programming languages are it requires less code than other languages, requires less time to develop an application, increases modularity and reusability, makes the code maintenance easier, and it enhances the ability to create a user-friendly interface. Objects are reusable and combined to create complex programs. Popular object-oriented programming languages include Java, C++, C#, and Visual Basic. But as I mentioned, Python and JavaScript can also be used as object-oriented programming languages. A language translation, compilers, and interpreters. A source code is a program as it was originally written by the developer. It's something a person can understand. Object code is the result of translating that source code into a language the hardware can understand. It's a program in machine language that can be run by the computer. The types of programming language translators are 1, compilers, and 2, interpreters. A compiler translates the entire source code all at once to object code, but it doesn't execute the code. It scans for syntax errors and generates an error message if it finds one. In contrast, an interpreter scans one statement at a time in your program. If error-free, it interprets that statement and executes it. It goes through the program until an error or the end of program is encountered. And here we see a programmer entering in source code. A compiler translates that into object code, in other words, a language the machine can understand, or machine language, which is a series of bits, zeros and ones. Application software. Application software allows non-programmers to develop their own tools. Application-specific software are programs designed to perform specific jobs. General-purpose application software are programs that serve multiple purposes. And they usually come as packaged software. A packaged software is software that's ready to install from external media such as CDs or to download from the internet. Productivity tools assist normal office work, And they include word processors, spreadsheets, presentation tools like PowerPoint we're using here, file and database software, graphics programs, and desktop publishing tools. Word processors create text documents. Spreadsheets store numbers and perform complex mathematical, statistical, and financial analysis functions. Presentation tools can be used to develop impressive presentations very quickly. File and database management tools create and manipulate local or shared databases. Graphics programs create intricate graphical images and manipulate digital photographs. Desktop publishing tools develop items for publication, such as pamphlets, newsletters, cards, calendars, and things of that nature. There's also project management tools that help plan projects and track their progress. A suite is a collection of various applications that perform multiple interconnected functions. So examples might include Microsoft Office, IBM Lotus Smart Suite, and the free Apache OpenOffice. Hypermedia and multimedia. Hypermedia has a feature that enables users to access information by clicking a text line or a graphic. Web authoring tools enable hypermedia features. They're often part of other applications such as word processors and presentation tools. Multimedia software handles many different types of media. It's often used in education. Lessons are presented in multimedia. Research, data is compiled and integrated. Training exercises containing simulated real-world situations. And business situations, compound documents filed and used electronically, and also in interactive websites. A mashup is an integrated application containing some or all features from several other applications. It provides enhanced features for the end user. Website design tools are used to develop and change the content of web pages. Popular packages include Microsoft SharePoint Designer, Expression Web, AvanQuest WebEasy Professional, and Adobe Dreamweaver. Newer software enables websites implemented using a blog environment. Groupware is an application that enables sharing of ideas and information resources among group members. It supports real-time collaboration via web technologies, allows for remote collaboration, eliminates travel times, and facilitates expression and exchange of ideas. An example of this might be Wigio or Google Drive. 3D geographic software is used to develop three-dimensional models of geographical location. Models are created from land and aerial photographs. These systems help with navigation when tied to a global positioning system software. They can create virtual, existing tangible items or create new ones. System software. System software deals with essential operations between the user and the computer. And these include things like loading, copying, and deleting files, managing memory resources, operating peripheral equipment, and it also encompasses compilers and interpreters. applications must be compatible with the system software. An operating system is the most important program on the computer. It recognizes input from the keyboard and mouse, sends output to computer displays, keeps track of files and directories, runs applications, and manages memory. It's usually developed using low-level programming languages such as assembly language. It's also known as a platform. And here we see that the operating system is at the center of all the various activities being done with a computer. It mediates the computer's system resources. Application programming interfaces are software included in the operating system that can be used by application program developers. Operating systems have a position in the computer's logical operation. The user interacts with the user interface using menus, icons, and application commands. The application converts user input into commands. Operating system commands are sent to the CPU to carry out the operation. The operating system allows applications to use the CPU, memory, input and output devices, and the file system. Utilities perform other operating system functions: hardware diagnostics, file comparison, and file sorting. And here we see the various layers that are in a typical computer platform: user interface, procedures and functions, operating system, language translators, your system software, and then the hardware. Operating systems must manage the system by allocating hardware resources to applications. Operating systems provide several services, including user interface, memory allocation, including the use of virtual memory. And virtual memory is when a hard disk is used as an extension of memory. And then operating systems also provide plug and play services. And this is where you recognize and run a device as soon as it's physically attached. A driver is software that enables the operating system to control a device. Additional operating system services include database management, networking, and security. Different computers and types of microprocessors use different operating systems. Popular PC operating systems include Windows, Linux, and the Mac operating system. Operating systems for mobile environments are used with smartphones and tablets. Operating systems are noted for their stability, and the most stable include Unix, the Mac OS X, and Linux. So here's a graphic of popular operating systems for various hardware platforms. And continuing on to smartphone and tablet operating systems. Other types of system software include compilers and interpreters, communications software, utilities, and database management systems. Communication software supports transmission and reception of data across computer networks. Utilities include antivirus programs, firewalls, and other programs that detect and remove unwanted files and applications. Open source software is free source code. It's developed through a voluntary collaboration of programmers, and it's reviewed by many programmers across the world. So it has fewer bugs due to the law of many eyeballs. Examples include Firefox, Drupal, MySQL, Perl, and OpenOffice. In contrast, proprietary software is sold or licensed for profit. The source code is private and not available. The developer retains all rights to the software, and the user purchases a license to use the software. Linux is probably the best known open source operating system. It includes free versions and also some versions that charge for support and additional features. A disadvantage is a limited number of applications that run on it. It's popular because of its stability and versatility. It runs on mainframes, PCs, handhelds, and electronic devices. Software is usually licensed. Licensed software products provide limited permission to use the software. It's usually a time-limited license and requires annual fees. Software pricing or licensing models include the permissive model. Anyone can use and sell modified versions of the software. A general public license, anyone can use and make modified versions but cannot sell modified versions for profit. And proprietary, code is owned by someone who has the sole right to sell or license it to us. Software as a service provides application software developed and maintained by a third-party provider, and it's offered to organizations for a recurring fee. A third-party provider is also referred to as an application service provider. They develop and maintain the software on their hardware and provide maintenance, support, and hardware operations. So here we see an example of a software evaluation form. Some of the factors to consider when purchasing large software packages include cost, time to implement, cost of interrupting your operation, and modification costs to customize the software. So in summary, we've talked about software and mentioned that there are two categories of software, system and application, discussed programming languages, and the tools used for developing, compiling, and running programming languages. We also went into application software, some of it custom designed, many of it packaged. We talked about productivity tools and hypermedia and multimedia technology, went into groupware, and looked at operating systems, the most important system software. Finally, we discussed open source software that's distributed freely on the web. A good proportion of software is licensed, and open source is an alternative to that. Software piracy is a significant problem with proprietary software. People will pirate and use it without paying for it. And this concludes our discussion of business software. Thank you.